What's up, guys? This is Editing Galley popping in. Unfortunately, this episode had quite a few issues with it, one of them being the audio in the first couple of minutes during the intro not working. So, in today's episode, I'm interviewing Salty Mike, and we had a really great discussion. And one of my opening questions to him was kind of what is his relation to the game? How did he get started out? And just kind of like his starting story a little bit. So, you'll hear him touch on that a little bit. And a huge shout out to him as well for jumping in the podcast. I do apologize. You guys will notice his camera was a little bit wonky. That was not a him problem. Don't go to his comments or anything like that. That was a me problem. Something in my hardware is finicky. Not sure what's going on. We'll need to change something for the next episode. But I still wanted to get this out for you guys, so enjoy the episode.
I've known about Star Citizen since before the Kickstarter, but I backed in 2013. Literally the day after they said they were getting rid of LTI. It was supposed to be a thing that was limited just for like early backers, and then they just kept selling it from that point forward because they knew it was a selling point. But I was drawn to it from the economy video
Yep.
and what they kind of wanted to do with that because I was playing a, a dying MMO, and you were watching people just kind of set prices that didn't make sense, and it was just like, oh, I like this idea of them controlling the economy, and now I actively speak against that constantly. But yeah, I stream on Twitch, make YouTube videos, talk about the game, and the basis of everything that I do is I've played a lot of MMO hours. I have not played a lot of different MMOs, um, but if Star Citizen wants to be an MMO, there's certain things that they just like have to do well.
Yeah.
And I tend to just like really enjoy talking about what I love from my MMO experiences that I would love to see in Star Citizen. And that's basically what I do every day is just talk about that with a few people in chat and on YouTube and just have fun with that and make light of the situation that we're in. And
Yeah.
because what else can you do?
Yep. For those watching on YouTube, because this will be posted, I know we're streaming on Twitch, but for those watching on
Mhm.
YouTube, I will have all of his socials posted in the description. So if you're not following, he's got React channels, podcast, Answer the Call, right? That's the name? Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
And then his main channel, of course. So I'll have all that linked below. Make sure you give him a follow. And yeah, we'll jump right in. So for those viewers who are watching, one of the things this podcast likes to do is frame the conversation from the perspective of orgs and the meaning behind orgs in Star
Yep.
Citizen. And so, wanted to ask, what is your history? I know you're in an org now. What's
Mhm.
kind of been your history with maybe Star Citizen orgs and maybe just orgs in your gaming history as well?
Yeah. So always like the first guild that I was in was like a newbie guild that was like because
Okay.
I was 16 years old. I was not in Star Citizen in Ultima Online.
Yep.
And I was like, no, was I 16? Yeah, I was like around 16. And I was like, I don't know anything. This is like the first MMO ever. I have no idea what the heck is going on. So I joined like a newbie guild, and it was the most amazing thing. It was like, oh, these people who are just like actively taking their time and teaching all of us how to play the game. This is
Yeah.
awesome. And that was my first experience with just interacting with anybody in an MMO. And I'm like, this is great. I was hooked. So that's what got me hooked on like MMOs. And then as far as Star Citizen stuff goes, early on, I was like, I think we all thought this was going to be something super duper special, like something like no other, right? And
Yeah.
it is, but I guess like in our minds, like I think we were thinking we were going to do epic battles or things like that. So I was starting to think like, all right, if I'm going to participate in this game, I'm going to need to be in a big org. So I joined. Oh man, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'm looking it up now. The I think it was called the Imperium,
Okay.
and it was the largest org at the time, bigger than Test Squadron, I believe, at the time. And they just didn't do anything, right? And like I get it, there's not much to do, but they just didn't do anything. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'll back out and make my own and do things that I wanted to do. And So I've made my org 3 different times. It's called 30K Incorporated for
Okay.
the amazing 30Ks that we used to get. And I always wanted to be industry focused. Every MMO I've ever played, I start out doing like crafting and mining and logging and things like that, and then I get into PvP later. But that's what I wanted to focus on, and this iteration finally stuck. I think it's really, really cool what we do. Like before the podcast, we were talking about gun running with you. That's what we started with. When the FS9 was a thing that you can only find on NPCs,
Yep.
or in loot container. Right? I guess it was just in loot containers, not NPCs at the time. We went and grinded for PvP orgs and would sell them to them, like
Yep.
Mongrel Squad and things like that. And then from there, when people would pirate, we would move the boxes when there were just one SCU boxes. And now it's, we were a part of Shadow Moses's um, world first Idris when Hathor dropped. We
Oh,
were
nice.
mining, yeah, we were mining the uh, the Quantanium. We were making the Polaris bits. We were mining the ore inside the caves while they were dealing with the PvP. And I think that that just represents that, like, that thought in my mind when I first was thinking of what Star Citizen would be. That was the closest representation of what that was Hathor. It was like all of these people jumping into a server, maxing out every server at that time probably, and all going for one thing, and huge fights and big ships. Was it a mess? Of course. But it was representing what I was hoping uh we would get, and it was an awesome experience to be part of. One, just something bigger than just you, and two, uh just working together on something. It's hard to do that in this game because
Yeah.
there's not a lot to do. So when they gave us the opportunity to do it, uh, we jumped on it and it was awesome. Yeah, and all the
Because
guys
I'm curious,
delivered
they
for
did
sure.
it really fast officially, right? It was like 2 hours after patch drop, right?
No, 2 day, like 2 days,
Oh, okay.
because yeah, it was hard to get um a hole, and then yeah, it was hard to find. There was so much stuff to farm, and it was not something you like. Everybody knows exactly where to go, what to do now when it comes to a lot of Wicklow stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, it just dropped. Nobody really knew anything, so it was a kind of a surprise at the time, I would say. So we were all just like, "Let's go!" And like we had most of the Karenite, and then we realized nobody had mined any Quantanium. So it was like we're buying Quantanium at so we weren't just mining, we were trading, we were doing all sorts of stuff. We are buying Quantanium from our org members at 100,000 per SCU when they were selling for 25,000 per SCU. So that was to like motivate our own members to go out and mine and get wealthy through this and be a part of that bigger thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, it was like it was a I would say like maybe a day and a half, and
Okay.
most of the time was spent like dealing with the freight elevator situations. So yeah, it was a pain. I made all
Yeah.
of the Polaris bits. It was not fun.
Oof. Yeah, we just got our, well, not just. We got a couple weeks ago our Wicklow Idris, and
Yep.
it was a lot. I went we did a little bit through the org, but I tried to like min max the trade market as much as I could.
Yep.
And so I was like buying and trading with as many people as I could and just rushing it. And it still
Yep.
took me a long time to do it.
Oh yeah.
Much more than 2 days. It was like, I think like 2.5 weeks or something like that for me to get it.
Yeah. I mean, the Idris is excessive, an excessive amount of
Yeah.
materials, and materials that are lots of bugs around them. Right.
Yeah.
We're going for our second one because we have like a group of people that run content at like US nighttime,
Yep.
and then we have a group that runs EU nighttime, and the EU side doesn't have one. And we we kind of need one for some of the mining stuff we do, which is actually quite awesome. They they take they take like prospectors and smaller ships. They go through the back of the Idris, stop in the middle, and then there's a team that's like an F1 pit stop, takes the bags off, puts fresh bags on, and then you go out.
That's
And then
awesome.
and then the bags get moved by like logistics people to the refinery, and then they get refined. and it's super cool. So we don't have that for the EU time zone. So yeah,
Yeah,
we don't
it's
use it
really
for combat.
yeah, it's really cool. And I think it's what draws a lot of people to Star Citizen is that idea of like larger scale teamwork being involved. And to your point, there's not a ton of options to do that right now.
No,
So when you can find them, it's a really
yeah,
cool moment and a cool grind. But getting those is rather challenging.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, we we're experimenting with a new way to do that by doing like org contracts, I guess. So we just like entered into a contract with Space Tomatoes org where he's trying to get 50 Apex Valakar fangs, and
Okay,
so we're gonna get that for him, and in exchange he's gonna give us like a bucket load of grade A components. Um,
got it.
I'm not a duper at all. I cannot stand duping or insurance fraud, any of that stuff. So I try to like always source my stuff legit. Is it honestly a waste of time given the game we play? Yeah, but
Of course.
it gives us something to do. So we're experimenting with that, trying some different ways to encourage activity, encourage a grind, or give something for people to do.
Every hobby is a waste of time
Yep.
if you think of time as money or something like
Yeah.
that all the time, of course.
Yep.
But if you're playing a video game, you're you're wasting time in somebody's eyes. I think it's awesome and doesn't
Yeah.
feel like a waste of time to me, but somebody's gonna say it is.
Yep. Well, that's a good transition to kind of talking about orgs in general and
Yep.
kind of their meaning in the game and what maybe their meaning is now compared to what it maybe you hope it should be. So,
Yep.
talk to me a little bit about your guys' maybe struggles now as an org and maybe some pain points, and then how you are
Mhm.
hoping that those kind of are alleviated or solved in the future because it seems like we're heading in that route from CIG. It sounds like we're maybe starting to address some of these issues.
Very slowly, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I think like you as a PvP org has so such an easier time because you just go out and fight, right? Whether it's fighting
Yeah.
your own members or fighting other people or setting up things, like you have a lot more options. Where ourselves, we want to mine and salvage and trade and craft and build stuff for people, and our content doesn't exist yet. So that's
Yeah.
like a big struggle that we have, is just that is like we don't have contracts, we don't have these things that are, there's no trade windows and making any of that stuff easy. So that's number one. But number two is just generally, the lack of economy in the game makes it really unmotivating for people. So I think we have the coolest system in our org that anybody has. I don't think anybody's doing this to the level that we're doing, at least in Star Citizen, where we use a WoW bot that
Okay.
gives something called DKP to our members for joining fleets and turning in Wicklow items and things that we can trade and buy and sell and eventually craft, hopefully. And they're able to use that DKP, or just consider it credits, our own internal currency,
Yeah.
to buy shares in the company. And whatever we profit every week, until more recently, until the economy went to absolute hell, we were paying out our members weekly a percentage of a large percentage of our profits, just keeping a little bit back,
That's cool.
and making our members rich from working together and having fun. But what happens is they're all rich now, so
Yeah.
like what motivates them to want to keep playing is the hard part. So it's not like we're building cool bases. Like, I don't know. My goal for the org would be way more along the lines of like, the goal is always to provide content to your members, right? But what's
Yep.
content for miners and salvagers? Probably like the best possible refineries or the best possible salvage breakdown facilities, whatever, space stations and bases and things that you would not be able to do on your own. You have to do as a collective, and then try to do it at the highest level possible. So every bit of content is available to them, right?
Yeah.
Or finishing events quickly, like that's basically what we're doing now. But um so yeah, the lack of like certain things like base building, trading windows, contracts, things like that. Um and just general economy. is such a struggle for us.
Yeah, and I think you pose an interesting question and point there. From an org like you guys who are more on the industrial side,
Mhm.
what do you place more value on from a game development standpoint? Do you place more value on the internal game tools like the game contracts or things coming out that are org focused, or do you think kind of org interactions between other orgs to generate that through additional gameplay systems is more important? So think like player trade essentially, where you can have bigger contracts flowing through the game as opposed to like um,
What you're doing,
small.
right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
exactly. Do you think what's your take, I guess, on strictly player to player interaction versus in-game systems to generate that content for your org?
I guess I'd have to ask you to clarify a little bit more because like what's like an in-game, you're talking about like a contract in-game being an
Yeah, so
in-game
think like
system?
a mining contracts, salvage contracts. Currently, they're fairly like small focus. They're not super large, and the value there currently is just money. So
Ah, okay, I understand. So you're talking about like Moby Glass missions versus doing stuff for each other.
yes, exactly.
Got it. Oh yeah. Like the thing that drives me absolutely insane is this like in crazy focus on missions
Yeah,
when without giving us like they've built this like crazy big universe and no tools for us to kind of go out there and just play in it. Uh, the tools seem to be these missions where it's like that's not motivating anybody to do anything together. All of
yeah,
that mission content is mostly solo driven.
yep,
So, oh yeah, uh, like love the mission team. Two of them are in my org, but the hate the missions.
yeah,
Like I just wish we were. It made so much more sense to go and mine. Like, dude, I think this week or next week we're getting these mining contracts and salvage contracts.
yep,
Go look at how much they're paying. They pay more than if you were going to go to the highest
yep.
spot to sell your RMC or your ore. It's like you're actively working against players working together and you're making an MMO.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
So do you think like from a first step standpoint, maybe from maybe the Moby Glass team or mission team, I'm not sure what team would handle it, but
Mm,
I'm sure you're familiar with like how we can post or we used to be able to do like the transport contracts and the medical
yep.
contracts, and players could create those through the Moby Glass. Do you think doing something like that where a player just in game posts a contract that says I need X materials and then it pops it up so anyone can accept it? Do you think that would be like a good starting point for this, or do you think we need like a total overhaul of this system in order for you guys to kind of get?
No, we need a new system. Like it just depends. As long as I know people want to like come together and do things together as a group, but as far as like this specific subject, I need something from here moved over there, or I want to buy a bunch of, for your example, Space Tomato wants the Valacar fangs, right?
Yep,
He should be able to put up a contract at Orison for 50 Valacar fangs, and anybody at Orison or the surrounding area can see that contract and go, let me fill it, and then just go fill it.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean that's how I feel it is how it can should be, but fill it without having to interact with each other.
yeah,
Does that like I know that that's like counterintuitive, but it's not at all. When you have things coming in, uh, and you may not physically see the person in front of you, but when you know that the world is actively active I can't is the
yeah,
best word. It's a very good feeling. I play a lot of Eve Online. That's exactly how it works. Is almost everything is hands off, but because I put up a contract and say fly all of this stuff from all the way over here through treacherous areas and bring it here, and a day or two later it's there, is like whoa. And I know only a player did that.
yeah.
Like that's the big thing about like this whole NPC economy thing that they want to do. You won't know if a player did it, and
Yep.
that makes it feel less cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So I think that that flows nicely into our next topic, which is kind of player trading and
Mhm.
how that should interact with this whole system and maybe what it should look like and shouldn't look like. You guys do some player trading right now, right? Just
Yeah, we're not interacting with any orgs or anything like that right now, just
okay.
because the economy is so broken.
Yeah.
But if it was not, we absolutely would. I don't know. Do you want examples of some things that we
Um,
do?
walk me through maybe let's say the economy's not broken. Um,
Yep.
walk me through what your current process would be to have that interaction, and then after that, we'll flow into what you think that interaction should look like using in-game tools or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, super easy. So right now, the main thing we would do is we use UEX. We have an org
Yep.
account that multiple people have the username and password to, and throughout the day, we'll log in to that account, and we'll log into the UEX account, and try to be on as many hours a day to deal with anything that we want to buy or anything that we want to sell from UEX. That's one part of it, and that was the main source of income. And then what I realized is orgs, potentially like orgs like yourself, uh, other piracy orgs, other PvP orgs, they don't want to do that. They don't have anybody that wants to do that. So another thing that we did was we reached out to some of my friends that were in bigger PvP orgs and said, "Hey, if you've pirated anything, if you've earned any like Wicklow items or CZ stuff or whatever, and you want to sell it on UEX, but you don't want to deal with all the heartache, pain of it, because it is painful, let me
Yeah.
tell you, we'll buy it from you for 85% of the UEX price right now, and we'll buy it all in bulk. So like 300 million to you, 600 million to you right now,
Yep.
and you don't have to deal with it." So we made some deals like that. So once a month, we would just collect all of their crap, and then we would go and sell it for a profit, which was
Nice.
pretty cool. So that was one thing that we did, and then yeah, and then I guess the only other example was the Hathor stuff when that first came out, and gun running from way back, which I can't wait
Yeah.
to do again.
Yeah. Gun running is fun. That's how I got introduced to player trading was
Yep.
um, I was in a previous org and I was kind of running their bounty hunting group. And we did a lot of like gray op type stuff. And I
Hmm.
was trying to generate more gameplay for my guys that I was kind of leading at the time. And I was like, what's like the most gray up thing you can do? Back alley selling guns to people.
Yep.
And I was like, that sounds awesome. And so I started
Yeah.
experimenting with just selling railguns, rocket launchers, grenade launchers. And that was like
Yeah.
the big three. And then
Oh
now
yeah.
it's transition. Grenade launchers out, boom tube is in, and
Yep.
that's I still mostly focus on that just because it's really fun. It feels really cool. Wicklow stuff is such a pain. I tend to avoid it if I can, but it's so needed right now that you kind of are shooting yourself in the foot not doing it. So,
Yeah.
but I don't even
It's
do it
all
at
we
all
got.
anymore because who needs money? um,
Yeah.
so yeah, the that whole gun running idea is so cool to me, and I got inspired to it, which I actually just learned this the other week. Um, I got inspired to do that from the movie Lord of War with Nicolas
Oh,
Cage,
now you know.
and I did not know that Chris Roberts was an executive producer on that movie, and I was like,
Yep.
look at that, Chris Roberts all over here. Um, so what do you think then? Because I think that setup's actually not a horrible setup. I think it's a neat idea to kind of like go out to these PvP orgs and offer to buy it from them. I think that's a cool
Yeah.
idea. What do you think needs to happen from an in-game point of view or perspective to make those interactions not all happen on Discord?
Those contract systems, like simple as that. It's so I can't describe how simple it is in Eve Online. Like you literally can put everything into a container,
Yep.
say Control A, right click, create contract, You can write the individual's name in, you can create a contract for a corporation, and that's that. Like it is, or it could just be public. And you could just say all of these things are available for 1 million credits. Pick it up here, and then you figure out what you want to do with it after. Uh, Again, Star Citizen, the big thing about Star Citizen, and people might not like that because people do like the idea of, you gave the example of people coming onto your Idris and buying guns on your Idris,
Yeah.
right? That this is counterintuitive to that. You could still do stuff like that if you want to, right? You may not want people to know that you have these kind of things or
Yeah.
whatever, right? So you can still do it sneakily if you want. But if you want this to work at scale that everybody can do, that everybody's comfortable with, it has to be simple. It has to
Yep.
be easy. And I'm sorry, but you and I linking up on time is never going to be easy. I
Yeah.
wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to bed in 4 hours,
Yeah.
right? Like you're probably just ending your stream then. I'm not usually on at this time. Like I
Yep.
make I make exceptions here and there to come on and do stuff like this. So if not everybody plays at the same times. So in order for us to do things, you need that contract system
Yeah.
because then I have to rely on somebody else to do that. And then I guess the one major thing that none of us have brought up yet that is paramount and epically important is I shouldn't have to share a login for to access an inventory for my org mates, right?
Yeah.
We should have a like a co hanger that we give access to people that we trust to
Yep.
interact with those things. Same
Yep.
with the bank and so on and so forth, right? So those kind of tools are paramount to making this work. That's probably the most important one. And then the second one is the contract stuff is not everybody plays at the same time, but we want to work together. And yeah, it would be horrible if you needed boom tubes and the server's kind of dead at the time you're
Yeah.
playing, let's say. Like, is that fair to But you could get them at any time of the day with a contract. So I think that's important.
Yeah. We had a funny way with trying to make a system like that in a game that just doesn't support it at all. So when I first started my org, we were obviously just starting out, brand new, only had a couple
Yep.
members, but all of us at the time did trading, and
Yep.
so we use an alternate account and would park it on a shard, and just like we had a mouse mover so that it would never get disconnected, and so that
Yep.
shard became our like everything we did was out of that one shard, and assuming that shard didn't crash, we were fine. And
Yep.
then we would park someone on it, and then we would pick a random spot, like the most random spot on Microtech or Hurston, and we would just dump all of our cargo there. And so that way, if people needed to access org inventory, they would just go to that spot
Yep.
and do it. And it was so jank and so broken, and we lost countless boxes
Of
of
course.
items. So eventually, we're like, yeah, we're done with this. But it was I agree. We absolutely need a way to access org inventories, org bank
Yeah,
accounts, and be able to transition that kind of stuff. Because otherwise, what are we doing?
exactly.
Um, cool. Well, that's we are definitely on the same page on that front.
Yeah.
Um, and what's interesting too, because you are right. The way I do trading currently is counterintuitive to what you just described. But what you just described is absolutely what's needed.
Yeah.
I come from Tarkov, the flea market system. You never see each other. The flea market is fantastic. If I could
But you
have a
know it's
flea
alive.
market, exactly,
Yeah.
and I would game the system all the time. Like I'd buy all of one stim and
Hmm.
flood the market with just that one stim when they allowed you to resell and things like that. And it was fun because you could play the market and you know you're playing with real players. Everyone who's
Yep.
buying your stuff is real, and everyone who's selling stuff is real. And the only thing BSG would do to change that would be to change the rarity of the item, which was I thought fantastic, and it was really cool.
That's all a developer should do.
Yeah, 100% agree. And if I could get a flea market type system in Star Citizen, which I know is a lot harder to do than it sounds, maybe, but like you utilizing the current trade commodity screens. Like just turn one of those into a flea market and then have it tied to local inventory. And when you buy it, it moves to that inventory and parks it there. And then if now the hard part is what happens when you buy it from someone? Does that item become teleported to your location or does it stay at the location it was input at? I don't know how
Oh,
that
it
has
should
to
stay at
work.
the location.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it has to stay. Make them go get it.
But you could create a contract for somebody else to go get it and bring it to you.
Yes. Yep. And that's fun. And if that's the route CIG goes, and I so hope they do, that
Yeah.
will be so much fun. And I honestly, I could never have base building if I had that. Base building is fun. I am extremely excited for it. Player market to me though is like the the tip of the iceberg.
100%.
Um, cool. Well, we will. I was gonna put us in an instancing, but I think what we'll do, because I think this is a nice segue, is let's talk about base building a little bit and crafting and
Yep.
how that's all gonna work with the hopeful economy and um, inventory and stuff like that. So I know
Mhm.
you got to test out crafting, and from the
Yep.
video I watched, seemed like you had pretty positive things to say about it. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Curious what your thoughts are on crafting and and eventually we don't know a ton about base building, but how that will lead into base building and kind of the what are some necessary resource sinks you think that we need to see come into that and kind of loops that make it so resources are being killed off or despawned or whatever and new ones have to
Sure.
be injected back in. What do you think that loop should look like?
Well, number one, what we know about Stanton is you're not going to be able to loot anyone's bases or destroy them. So
Yep.
the absolute main thing that has to happen there is taxes. It's got to be expensive to do anything there. To kind of inch you to a place like Pyro to do it on the frontier where it's dangerous. Number one, uh, I do think that I will always say this, and I will get lots of hate for it. I don't care. Our ships should be destroyed. Our armor should get destroyed. Our weapons should get destroyed in some way. It does look like they're going in that direction in some way, shape, or form, but we don't know exactly how it's going to work because there's durability on everything now. Um, and yeah, so when you go to the risky places, that's that's the monetary sink there, right? You can't just have none and
Yep.
you're on a dead server and everything's fine, right? If you always have the chance of getting blown up, then it could cost you.
Yep.
But that's the number one thing. Resource sinks into stuff like base building and crafting is just like you mentioned before, the company can be like, it's not expensive enough to make a Volt weapon, so
Yep.
we need to dial this up a little bit. Now, one of the things with crafting was Volt weapons are going to be really expensive to make because they have Janelite as the thing that makes the
Yeah.
the lightning bolt. So that's going to be pretty expensive. So yeah, like determining pricing is going to be really cool when it comes to that. But yeah, as far as sinks go, taxes, fuel
Yep.
to power these kinds of things. Um, I don't know. Those are the only two things that are coming to my mind at the moment.
So what do you think about maybe kind of like we need crafting, like Janelite, for example, is making the electricity part of the Volt weapon. What
Sure.
about things? I guess you could say fuel. I think fuel is along that same line, but what
Hmm.
about needing other items to have base functions work? Like I know shield generators are a thing coming. What if we need a
Sure.
special resource to make that shield generator function
Oh,
beyond fuel? You think
of
that's
course.
smart, not smart?
What like a battery of some kind, maybe?
Battery or maybe minerals, like it needs to ingest a certain type of mineral to produce the energy that it needs, or I don't know. Some I'm
Yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want. It's just a matter of is this fun? Is this not fun?
yeah,
And those are all things that we'll see. Like if it if it's really boring and stupid, or it's overly simplistic, or it's just too easy to make like what you need, I think, when it comes to anything like that is choice and like lot lots of choices.
yeah,
So um not every base should look the same. Not every base should have all right, you need exactly this many shield generators and this many AA, and nobody's going to be able to touch you, right? That's the
Yeah.
meta or whatever. I think that would be the most important thing, because what it comes down to is whether it's a consumable of some sort of a mineral or a consumable of a battery, it's all going to start at the base minerals that are going to
Yep.
craft the tiny thing that gets turned into another thing that gets put into this thing. That's that's crafting in any game, right? And if they're not
Yeah.
doing it that way, then I don't, they don't play games. And I know these guys play games. A lot of them were a part of, the Ultima Online days. Well, not a lot of them. They're old. The older guys were part of
Yeah.
that game, and that's how all that stuff works. Is you start with the base materials, and then you just level them and level them and level them into newer and better stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Um,
that's where a lot of that sync is. It's Syncs are also time in
yeah.
that case.
Yep.
Time to
Um,
craft, right?
yes, yes, exactly. I something I talk about all the time. Like I think time in general in Star Citizen is too fast. I think everything happens too fast to a degree.
What about
Um,
quantum travel? Do you think that happens too fast?
no, no,
Okay.
that needs
As
to
long as
go.
we're on the same page there,
Yeah, it's quantum
then
travel.
I
In
agree.
fact, probably should go faster.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I do like that there's an element to quantum travel where there's a mini game of progression.
Mhm.
Like starter players don't understand the the ship customization aspect of speed versus consumption. It even exists.
Yep.
It's not shown to them. Honestly, CIG's fault for not really explaining that to them at all in any way, shape, or form. But
Yep.
when they do find out, it is kind of a cool progression of like you start off with crap and you can eventually make it to better. Um,
Yep.
I'm kind of always a fan of any form of get better, as long as it's coming from in-game stuff. No pay to win stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I don't want to see grade A's on the pledge store. Um, but in general, I think things go a little too slow or too fast. I mean, like insurance claim time. On no planet should I be able to claim my Wicklow address in 47 minutes for 110,000 credits or whatever it is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And
Um,
even that's like that's like a decent one.
yeah,
But like we were talking earlier is like I struggle with the PvP community here because they're always arguing about who won and who lost, but there's no like ledger to know how many kills and how many deaths happened, and it's too easy to just get right back into the fight because
yeah,
you just claim real quick and just go, and it's yeah, it's not good at all. Especially when you can just park right next to the fight. Like
yeah,
in other games like EVE Online, like there's a lot of fights that happen on fronts, but you don't live on the front. Your ships that you bought or build aren't on the front. You have to
yeah,
bring them there. And eventually those resources run out. And when they do, you lose,
yeah,
or theirs run out, you win. We
yeah.
don't have that.
I absolutely agree. As someone who does PvP fleet battles multiple times a week, the number of times that we have to like either set rules saying you can't pull out
Mhm.
more stuff or you just live with the fact that it happens
Yeah.
is every fight. Literally, not a single fight goes by where you don't feel that pain in one way, shape, or the other.
Yeah.
Um, and it's ridiculous. People now like now the strategy is like our org has more Idris than we'll ever use in a single fight. Um, some are
Yeah.
earned in game, some are bought to the pledge store, and so the smart play from anyone who wants to quote unquote win is you claim all of them to the nearest location that you're fighting at, and you
Yep.
lose one, pull out the other one, you're good to go. And sometimes you don't even need to worry about that. Sometimes your ship that you lost, you can claim it and have it ready to go in the same fight, and it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
um,
Especially that size. That's crazy.
yes, exactly. I'm more okay with like an arrow and like Gladius and light fighters, although they're the meta right now, which is another whole topic. But um, those being faster, I'm fine with. Like starter ships, especially. I think starter ships should be fast. They're they're so bad in every category that give the new players something to fly.
I mean,
Um,
I think the claim system is the worst thing. that
I do
ever
too.
maybe not ever happened in this game, but it it contradicts conflict.
Yeah. And I don't know how personally, I don't know how they come up with a system that feels rewarding and also feels fun, painful, and
Yeah, fun
allows,
painful is a very
yeah,
yeah.
and allows the claim system to function even close to the way it does now. I just don't see how they do that personally. The only thing I can think of, which they've kind of hinted at, is like the upgrading of ships through like
Yep.
crafting and stuff like that. And then like every time that ship dies, it needs to reset back to level one, base components, nothing upgraded, and you've now got to feel that pain of having to do that over again. That's I think the closest they're gonna get, because otherwise they're either not doing the acclaim system or they're
Yeah.
not making it fun. And it,
And I would be okay with that. I still just as somebody who's always crafted, I like crafting the original item.
yeah,
But the outside of that, it's I think that that's a good ish middle ground. I just it all depends again on like balancing and stuff. Cause if that
yeah,
original ship at a tier one level is good enough, then nobody is going to upgrade either.
yeah. You think like Wicklow ships or
Yeah.
um, contested zone ships. Like most of the
Yep.
time, my F7A contested zone Hornet comes out, and the only thing I do is swap the guns. The components, I
Yeah.
take it. It's grade A stealth, good enough
It's
for
good
me.
enough. Exactly. And that's not okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's okay for the CZ one because you essentially earned it, which is weird because you earn it in every other way. But the yeah,
yeah. It's
again, like
sticky.
if we get yeah, if we get out of the base because like you get a Wicklow Idris or any Wicklow ship or a CZ F7A, the the hope is those will still be base components that you'll be upgrading as well because
Yeah.
they're telling us at CitizenCon crafting is our main source of progression. Well, if you're making an MMO that's MMOs will hopefully last 20 plus years, how are you going to slow that progression down? That is what your
yeah,
job is as a developer is to literally slow that progression down. I
yeah.
don't see that anywhere. I don't see it in the crafting demo.
Oh,
I was
really?
finding 980 who knows what the distribution is going to look like when the game comes out, but in the test it was like I'm finding 980 990 quality stuff, like way more than I should, and maybe that was just to like excite us, get a good
yeah.
feel. And it's like, okay, well that would be like the highest level that we can get of these things. So what's that? I don't know. So it really comes down to like things that we saw at CitizenCon, where we saw them go, okay, iron and carbon, you put it together and make steel. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, well, steel and something else, you put it together and make Durasteel. What is that? Because now we're layering, and now it's um it's less about the material quality of the carbon, and now
Yeah.
it's about okay, I got good material quality steel and I got good material quality whatever would make Dura on it, and then put those two together, and now you have good quality stuff. And now now it's like all right, it makes sense to like go out and find the best of these things. And yeah, and hopefully it's not just mining and salvage. Hopefully it's NPCs dropping certain quality items
Yeah.
or that are needed for crafting. Hopefully, it's in salvaging as well. I I begged. I spoke to Torsten, showed him Eve Online. I know he knows people that work there and stuff, and I was just like, please look at salvaging for Eve Online. You're so close to this. It's good. And I don't know. We're not doing it that way. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it because they said salvaging would be like the opposite of crafting
Yeah.
where you like just break it down and get the materials that it's made out of. But I'm fingers crossed hoping because how Eve does it is you salvage a ship and you get like uh one of the items might be the like a screen or a
Okay.
trigger, like things that would definitely be part of the crafting of a ship but not just metal. right? Like
wasn't just
the
the original components, like the original materials to make it.
correct. It's just
Yeah.
like also going to the junkyard and taking pieces out
Yeah.
and using them for that. And then there's two levels of that salvage in EVE Online. So there's like broken circuit boards,
Yeah.
and then there's like good circuit boards. So then you have like different qualities, and it's used. And so now you end up with, I think the best example is you're a PvPer. Are you going to salvage, right? You don't want to salvage, do you? But
Nope.
you want these ships.
Yep.
So you need me, but
Hmm.
I need you to buy them, or I need you to protect me when I'm salvaging. And
Yep.
now we don't have skills. So I can't be like, well, you chose to do all the PvP skills. I chose to do all the crafting skills. Now it's just a matter of you don't want to take the time to do it. I'll take the time to do it. And
Yeah.
that's how we connect and become friends in the game, or alliances and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Um, that is it. That whole dynamic, I think, is really interesting. The whole dynamic of like, you do some things, I do other things. How do we mesh? How do we work together? How do we,
yeah,
or do we even need to? Like, I think some orgs are big enough you don't
I'm
even need to do
scared.
that. Yeah.
I'm
And
scared we're not going to.
yeah, and I am too. I like currently I force it to happen. Like I
Yeah.
will unnecessarily just be like, "Hey, I don't really feel like doing this. Can you just do it for me? And I'll pay you X amount of credits." Am I
Hmm.
capable of doing it? Could I have asked my org mates to do it for me? 100%. But I'm
Yep.
trying to like encourage that gameplay, and I always try to talk about it on episodes like this or Twitter. I yap on Twitter all the time. To who knows who. Um,
I
and
got off of that.
um, and it's interesting. Now, question I want to ask is like that whole dynamic of I want you to protect me. I
Hmm.
think from a PvPer's standpoint, I hear that and I immediately laugh. Um,
Yeah.
because why? Reality is 99, 98 times out of 100, you're never going to need that. And
Yep.
so that dynamic of like, what does the game need to do to make it fun and engaging for both sides? Because I think something we've struggled with, and I struggle with this like in our arms dealing events, for example. Um, we have a massive amounts of people that will come and protect the space. And we always struggle when we don't get attacked with boredom. Boredom is like
Yeah.
the number one concern. And so I'm curious, what do you think needs to happen to make it engaging for both sides of that aisle? Because I think there's a lot of weaknesses in that current system of orgs trying to work together. And
Yeah.
I
100%.
personally don't know if I don't really have a ton of ideas on how to make that more engaging. So I'm curious if you've given that any thought or if you
Oh, yeah.
have any thoughts on that.
It's simple. It's super simple. They have to provide enough content in a a small distance for people to enjoy themselves in. So, for example, your org needs to be based out of Hurston, and there's enough content where you guys are constantly doing content in Hurston, and that's it. Nowhere else. Because when the guys are mining on Aberdeen,
Yep.
then they can call, and this is something very cool that could be in the chat window stuff that is coming relatively soon, is if somebody like there's things called standing fleets in uh huge alliances in EVE Online, and
Yep.
it's a bunch of dudes just sitting in voice comms, talking, doing nothing, waiting for something to happen. I don't necessarily think we need that. You could go do something else to keep yourself busy. If you're a combat pilot, you can be pirating, maybe trying to find somebody or whatever, right? And then the miners are mining, and when they say, what is it? In Eve, you just type three W's, and that means like warp to me, warp to me, warp to me. I'm being attacked. So all they do is type three W's, and all we have to do in Eve is right click on them, set destination, or right click warp to member if we're in the same system,
That's
things like
cool.
that. And you just go, and it's much faster. also one of the things that Eve does is ships have larger ships have a lot more health. They have tools that they can lower the amount of damage that's done to them for a period of time to allow people to get to you to save you. Where Star Citizens, a lot of ships do not stay alive long enough, even if you were just out one little quantum jump away, you might not be able to get to the mining ship or the hauling ship to save them and protect them. So I think you need to be within close vicinity of each other and reasons to stay within close vicinity. And then you need to have I again might get some hate for this, but I think industry ships should have a lot more health, maybe no guns at all, no PDCs, nothing like that, just a lot more health and the ability to call in for help. Because you don't want people escorting you. That's horrible gameplay.
Yeah.
But if you have people that you can call when you get in trouble and they can get to you, then that's huge. So if you're all in the same party and somebody just types www, it's like boom, everybody set their destination to that person and go. Like you kind of have those tools now, and it's just a matter of being able to get there quickly enough before they die,
Yeah.
right? So that's why you can't be in Pyro and save somebody in Stanton for sure. You can't even be in Orison and save somebody at Hurston. So
Yeah,
you
I
have
was
to have
just about to say that is you even the number of times we've had fleets do that before, where some of the bigger PvP orgs will just be like, "Hey, we're doing this. Hang out in our system or near us, and we'll let you
yep,
know if something happens." And the number of times that we've needed those people, we send out the call, and the travel time for them to organize and get to us, the fight's already over,
yep,
and that is a struggle point. That sounds like a really cool system. I've never played. I've played E for like 30 minutes or 60 minutes. So I
yeah,
basically have zero understanding of Eve, but I've watched your streams and you play it a lot, and it sounds like they're doing a lot of really cool stuff to work with that system
yeah,
of players interacting with each other, and it sounds really cool. And I do hope Star Citizen takes a lot of that feedback from people like you and other Eve players to bring that into Star Citizen, because I do think it would be immensely helpful to.
yeah. Why not do stuff that works, right?
Yeah, exactly. We don't
It,
need
the, we're,
we don't need to
we're
reinvent the
talking
wheel.
exactly, and we're talking about how like this is a problem that doesn't work. Like you can't have this world where you want to create conflict between players, but not have uh, the wolf always win the fight against the sheep.
Yeah.
There has to be ways to get out, right? There's no like um really simple solution to a mantis
Yeah.
bubble, right? For a mining ship, for example. Whereas, like again, in a game like Eve, you can fit certain things that nullify those. So there's options there,
You
but you
do
lose
this, I do this.
capabilities. Exactly. So that kind of stuff is there's not enough tools for them. And that's why the tools always self-destruct and then go write a Spectrum post and complain about it or something, right? So
Yeah.
dumb.
I uh I experienced that the other day, not quite the Spectrum post, but I had a guy, because I was in my Idris, I was prepping for our org event, and actually was prepping for what I'm doing right after this stream. And I was loading it up with ships and cargo and guns and all the stuff I was going to need for a 3 hour hunt of other players. And
Yep.
some guy saw me solo loading it. I was being a little risky. I had to park it at Seraphim to try to load other ships in, and
Hmm.
I kept having to like open and close doors. And at some point, someone snuck on. Massive creds
Yep.
to him, no hate to him at all. Where I got uncomfy, and I wasn't mad, I just was disappointed, was I had a lot of really valuable stuff on that ship, and had he
Yeah.
chosen to take it, it would have been awesome. I would have applauded him. Well done, sir. You got me. Instead, he waited for me to leave Armistice Zone. He killed me in the pilot seat. Again, I was solo. I deserve it. I'm solo. I get it. Um, and then he blew up my ship, self destructed it, took nothing. He killed himself simply because I was a solo pilot. And I was like, all right, what are we
Yep.
doing? Um, And I was telling him, I was like, man, that would have been so cool, like such a cool moment for you, and honestly for me too, because I fully respect that gameplay loop of piracy, and I've done it myself. Like that could have been such a cool moment had you chosen to take a second to look. Like I wasn't really hiding the cargo; it was in plain sight, and he just chose to ignore it and just was single focused on self destruct my ship, and he had no loss from it, so he doesn't care. And
Yeah,
all it did was set me back like 2 hours of prep, which is not the end of the world. I'm not really mad about it. I was more just disappointed. Like we don't have the game yet that encourages that behavior of let me take
sure we do.
valuable things fully.
Sure we do. Take like so I thought you were going the other way. Like we don't have a game that because like people just will do it because they can,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you have that and that's fun for them.
Yep.
And that's it. Like you are playing a game
Salt
that
farming.
is there's two other people and it's all content. And you may not think that the content for him was entertaining or fun or as cool as it could have been, but it's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
Um,
That's the beauty of all of it.
yeah, and I think that there is
I would
something to
still
be
hate the
said.
guy,
Yeah.
but
um,
in the end, that's the beauty about it.
yeah, and there is something to be said about we're in an open world where anyone can set their own goals and expectations of
Yep,
what is fun and cry about it on a spectrum all you want. Unfortunately, if they're not breaking TOS, it's in the game, and
exactly.
um, learn to live with it and adapt. And if you don't, get left behind. Um, and yeah, it's all interesting. But on the topic of kind of PvP, I want to stay here a little bit. I know we're getting close
Sure.
to an hour, so I don't want to keep you much longer.
Okay.
Um, when it comes to, we're gonna see if we can tie this back into the economy, large scale
Mhm.
economy. PvP in the economy. What do you think that relationship needs to be? I know that's a very broad question, but what are maybe some things you think needs to happen on the PvP front in Star Citizen to encourage that usage of the economy, the impacts to the economy, hopefully like prices
Yeah.
rise and fall based on PvP interactions. What are you maybe some interactions you think there?
Well, number one, like PvP content is like ego, right? That's
Yeah.
basically what it all is. Is I outsmarted you or you're dumb and I beat you. It's all just gonna be ego stuff. So in order to and it's usually very min maxy, right? So I think that's where the material quality thing comes in. I need the to get that extra 1%, 2%, better fire rate or better damage or whatever, right? But then also, how do you get those things?
Yeah.
Everything that we heard at CitizenCon, Pyro's going to have better material quality. That's where there's no rules there. So that's where all the PvP kind of should be happening. And then, all right, well, what kind of tools are we going to get to figure out where the good resources are? Is everybody going to have this information available? If they do, then everybody knows where the good stuff is.
Yeah.
Are the bigger orgs going to try and take over that? Are other orgs going to start working together to say, you know what, screw that bigger org, we want these things?
Yep.
And yeah, and then you need crafters and PVE players to deal with that stuff because if that's really how it is, then it's going to be a 24/7 protecting those assets or trying to gain control of other people's stuff. Or I guess what we saw at CitizenCon was a lot of trying to gain control of the
Space
shields
station. Yeah.
to protect yourself. Um, because you can make it based on the ground, but then each week you have your planetary shield, so you can get a refinery down or a mining extractor down to get this really good material, and you can protect it for that week. And then you know you have to get it to Stanton or somewhere safe
Yeah.
after that, and people will know where that base is, maybe. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that can happen. I don't remember the original question if it was like PVE players and PvP players. How do we get them to work
it,
together?
it was how do PvP players need to affect the overall what we hope becomes the economy? What
Oh, I
are
mean, they're the hardest core people usually, right? So they're the
yeah,
ones putting lots of hours in. They're the ones who want the best stuff. They're the ones who are going to need the best stuff. And it's not just PvPers. It could be. if the worm fights ever get more intense, or some of the other PvE content gets more intense, that where you need higher level gear in order to do it, that's how we work together, right? It's the same
Yeah.
concept, different content. That's at the end of the gun that's being fired. But I think that's really what it is. I just hope conquest, territory control. I hope there's a limited number of space stations that can be built, and we fight over the ability to control them or something in certain systems. Maybe not in a Stanton or a Terra, but um, yeah, that's what conflict needs to happen, and conflict will drive every aspect of the economy because the conflict is what will
It needs to be expensive but
consume.
rewarding.
Yeah, and the rewarding is the ego stuff,
Yeah.
and then the expenses are all there, and then the best thing is if it's truly a good player driven economy, the all the money goes to the players,
Yeah.
not to an NPC. Like I say this all the time on my YouTube videos and my stream. Star Citizen seems like a really awesome game for the NPCs. They do
Yeah.
all the cool stuff. We don't get to do anything fun
Yep.
in comparison, at
Absolutely.
least.
Um, it it's interesting talking about you mentioned the conquest and territory control. Um, and this will probably be one of the final topics we touch on is
Sure.
how to like that's a huge concern of mine. I'll briefly touch on my concerns with the CitizenCon base building aspects. I'm quite concerned about the Terra and Stanton like blanket safety net that
Yep.
gets thrown on them. I think for one, you have territory problems, uh, and like I struggle to see a scenario where we don't see mega orgs just control such huge amounts of space that in all the important spaces that the smaller groups can't. And then also
Yep.
like how do you stop people from just never stop growing and like hit a threshold where you it's just too expensive to keep going. And how do you
Sure.
prevent that like in Pyro base rating, that is that mechanic.
That's the thing.
That's what will
Yeah.
prevent you from growing indefinitely. But in Terra and Stanton, these safer systems, like, do you scale the taxes per square foot? Like, the more square footage you have, the more expensive it gets incrementally, or something like that. I don't know how to handle that, and I don't even know if there is a good way to handle
Y-
that. But it's a huge
You
concern of
don't
mine.
have to. Yeah. All you have to do is voice that concern. So like that's the one thing that CIG does. They try to turn us into game designers. So because they want us to imagine
Yeah,
how the game will be, and then through that imagination, you feel like you now need uh, a consolidated Outland Pioneer to build your base, right? And that's $1,000,
yeah,
and you just feel like you need it now because in your imagination you want to be doing that base building, and you need this to do that, and but because of that, they also like we're going to take you into game development and all that stuff, and you start thinking that you have to tell them the solution to the problem.
yeah,
You just need to tell them that it's a problem. And they may already know that problem,
yeah,
right? So they did say low risk, higher taxes. In the I'm almost positive it said higher taxes in the PowerPoint
yeah,
from way
yeah. I
back
think they
when,
did.
right? So that's one of the things they're thinking about. So they have the same concern you do. That's number one. So just knowing that is should give you some peace.
Yeah,
And then it just comes down to balance. If they start seeing Test Squadron just making a grand city, number one,
kind of cool.
that that might be cool. That might be pretty cool. And it might not hurt anybody because the space is there's a lot of space
Yeah,
and a lot of room to build stuff. So is that even a negative? Maybe, maybe not. Um, we'll have to see on that front. And yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that we just need to say, hey, there are these orgs that have all these things. Don't you just can't let them take it too far. But also in games like this, people that don't invest time into them don't get rewarded
yeah.
as much as the people who do. And that's just the end of it. deal with it.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, but so many people bought Idris's on the website. So many people bought Polaris's on the website. So many people bought Pioneers with land on the website, right? And at some point, we all have to play a game, and the people who play it more and invest more time in it are going to get more out of it.
Yeah,
That's just how
for
life
sure.
works. If you do that stuff in real life, it's the same thing. They're choosing to do it here. You choose to do it in your real life. They are certainly making less money than you, probably, and others, and then you're making less money than them in the game. They're choosing to do it in a virtual world. You're choosing to do it in real life. We all make our choices, deal with them.
Yep.
And I don't see what I don't think it's okay for you to make the choice to not invest any time in the game and then complain that you don't have what the guy who did
For
invest
sure.
time in
For
gets.
sure.
Because I don't get to do that in real life. So why do you get to do it in the game that I might be investing time into?
Yeah.
And I, again, to bring up Eve again, I don't invest a lot of time into it. I play very little. I don't expect to be able to be building capital ships and owning space stations and having all the things and being a trillionaire because I don't want to be running 30 accounts and doing all these crazy things because I don't feel like investing that much time into it. I play a little bit, I do little things, try to get more efficient, make more money, try new things, and that's it. I get what I'm putting into it out. That's
Yeah.
it. But yeah, like what they have to do is we just need to say, hey, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. Like this entire org took over all of the valuable resources on an entire planet.
Yep.
Doubt that will happen. But if it does, all we gotta do is tell them about it, and if they're a good game developer, they'll deal with it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm really curious to see how they handle it. Like you're saying, we don't need to solve it. We just need to tell them it's a problem. And
Yeah,
I forget that a lot because I do get sucked in. It's one of my
it's
favorite
hard
parts
because
of Star
it's fun.
Citizen. It is.
It's fun.
It's what
Yeah,
drew me into Star Citizen was like feeling like you were just way more involved than any other game you've been excited about, and
yeah,
hearing about the development is really cool. Um, but to prove your point about ships and stuff like that, I pulled up our org fleet on Fleet Yards. If this doesn't prove your point, I don't know what will. Um, so we've only got 22 people who connected to our Fleet Yards account. We have
yep.
22 members on here, 254 ships, and the minimum crew to crew those ships is 353, and we have 22 on there right now. And it's like, what are we doing?
And then tie bases into that.
Yeah, exactly.
People should have to be managing those and dealing with fuel and moving inventories around.
Yeah.
It's
It's
silly.
yeah, the whole thing is interesting. It's really interesting. I'm extremely excited to see it develop. I really hope they give this a lot of thought and don't just pledge store the entire thing and
Yeah. Pledge
make
store the way it looks.
yes, yeah. Pledge store the
That's
way
it.
it looks to your heart's content. I don't care. Fortnite,
Yeah.
Fortnite it to your heart's content, honestly. But don't. I shouldn't be able to buy some mining module for my base that's only available on the pledge store for 6 months.
No, I would love to see just pack after pack after pack of styles.
Yes.
So like there's three hangar sizes, there's three refinery sizes, there's three whatever sizes, but they just within the metrics of all those sizes, they just dial them in and make them look different. And
Yep.
then you just choose your style, mix and match, and all sorts of stuff, right? And they'll make they could sell that stuff for as much as ships probably, and do with some ships, not Idris's, but
Yeah.
yeah, and then they could do well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are about at that time, folks. I don't want to keep him much longer. So thank you very
It
much
is dinner
for,
time soon.
yep, thank you very much for coming on. I think it was a great conversation. For the
I
viewers
enjoyed it.
watching, this is our first time formally getting to chat, so
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it a lot. I think you have a lot of really great takes, and I hope CIG listens because I think we need
they
more
don't.
people voicing. Yeah, we need we need more people voicing these types of concerns. I don't see enough of it in the space thinking about some of these problems and thinking about the real ramifications of some of them. I think we see a little bit too much glazing, um, or maybe a lot of
A little bit. Yeah,
it.
a lot.
um, but yeah, viewers, if you're not following Salty Mike, do so. And on YouTube, make sure you give him a sub, follow on Twitch. I'll have his Twitch, YouTube's, all that kind of stuff in the descriptions. And thank you very much. And what we'll do to close it off, one final thing.
Mhm.
Let me pull it up here. We like to do get one viewer question, and I saw an interesting one in here. So this is from an org mate of mine. He said, when
Mhm.
it comes to base building and crafting, do you think CIG will incorporate offline degradation of items after games like Dune and others have tried it and it's had a negative impact?
I don't know. I think they want to do so it's very clear they wanna do something like that. Like, they have it's to me, they've come to the realization that things need to die in order for if they really want people to create new things or more things. So, I don't I don't know how Dune does it because I refused to play that game, because I played Conan Exiles and I knew the developer was gonna ruin that game for sure after playing that. But the so, like, I'm assuming things degrade just randomly over time. That seems
It's
pretty
yeah,
dumb
it's
to me.
time based. It they kind of have like a taxes system where you need to like keep putting stuff in, and if you don't, the base just
Oh,
starts
so it's like Rust.
deteriorating.
Yeah,
Yes,
Rust
it's
does that,
similar.
right?
It's
Yeah.
similar.
I mean, if it works in other games, you could argue that it would work in this one. It just comes down to, is it fun? Is it not fun? Will it work for us? It could, right?
I think it's a good way of combating the overcrowding problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the bigger you get, the more I get. That's what Rust does, I believe. The bigger you get, the more resources you have to put into it.
Yep.
So yeah, I could see that working. Maybe not degradation, but the upkeep of some kind would definitely eventually make it worse. But then when you get a test squadron, is anything gonna stop a Zerg like that? Probably not. When your
Yep.
servers are 700 people, they'll just have their own private server every day, right? If it stays that way. So yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't
Well,
know.
thank you very much. We will wrap it up there. Chat, just so you guys know, I am going to shut the stream down temporarily to do some overlay changes and whatnot, some upkeep. And I will close off this recording and whatnot. I'll be back live in probably 10 minutes or less. And then we will get into the gameplay portion of today's stream. And we'll be doing some fleet PvP hunting at Hathor and other locations.
Ooh,
But for now, we will close this up. Thank you very much for popping in again, man. It was a lot of fun.
of course,
And
good time.
viewers, make sure to go give him a follow. And on that note, we will wrap it up there.